Halloween Kills reminds me again that the horror genre is some of the most fertile ground for sharing valuable truths about good, evil, and the human condition. Stick around to hear my thoughts. I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of Halloween Kills. A synopsis on IMDb reads, "The Halloween night when Michael Myers returned isn't over yet. Minutes after Laurie Strode, her daughter Karen, and granddaughter Allison left masked monster Michael Myers caged and burning in Laurie's basement, Laurie is rushed to the hospital with life-threatening injuries, believing she finally killed her lifelong tormentor. But when Michael manages to free himself from Laurie's trap, his ritual bloodbath resumes. As Laurie fights her pain and prepares to defend herself against him, she inspires all of Haddonfield to rise up against their unstoppable monster. The Strode women join a group of other survivors of Michael's first rampage who decide to take matters into their own hands, forming a vigilante mob that sets out to hunt Michael down once and for all." All right, so what is this animal? How do I feel about it in general in terms of the story, the pacing, the tone? I definitely feel like it's an improvement for what I want out of a horror movie in tone compared to the 2018 movie Halloween, which this is a direct follow-up to. It sticks much more to serious tension, and comedic moments are more light moments than actually trying to be funny. And I think that was a weakness for me in the last film, is that they would break up the tension too much for what I wanted. The story this time zooms out to focus on an ensemble cast of townspeople, some of whom survived Michael's first rampage in 1978, and all of whom kind of feel the echoes of that as just part of their town culture. It worked for me as an alternate path for the story to advance, since so often sequels of horror movies become rinse and repeat with the kinds of things going on with the same core characters, or they just try to make things more interesting by going bloodier and bigger and stuff like that. So taking this route, instead of just merely going bloodier and bigger, kept it, I feel like, from jumping the shark like so many horror movies do, even with just the second installment. But Laurie Strode and her daughter and granddaughter are still ultimately the central characters, which I think is valuable to this experience too. There are a few moments that connected with me emotionally, like a scene with Laurie talking to an old friend as they recover in the hospital together, but other moments sometimes felt emotionally false, including a man who seemed much less concerned about Michael being out and about than he should have been. And both Laurie's daughter and granddaughter didn't mourn their husband and father in a way that felt real. It felt real in this if it would have been like 6 months or a year after they had lost him. But in this movie, they just lost him in the last movie, and so their grief should still be like in a state of bewildered shock and being totally distraught, especially in the early part of the movie before they realize, oh, Michael is not dead. I think it would have made a lot more sense for them to be just totally distraught and still kind of shocked and almost in a kind of frenzy over their grief. But it didn't. It seemed like grief 6 months to a year out. But the overall tension did work for me more than in the 28 film, and the kills that kind of come at the climax of those tension building moments have a bluntness, literally, to them oftentimes that felt more painful than those kinds of moments in other more gory films of the same kind. It's still not quite what I want in a horror movie. I watch comedies to laugh, dramas to cry, and horror movies to be freaking scared and disturbed. But Halloween Kills doesn't fully commit to dread and horror to the same level as, say, 2003's Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot, which remains a standard for me in this genre. As far as the cast goes, the returning cast still worked for me, especially Jamie Lee Curtis, who, as I mentioned, performed a very touching scene. But I had mixed feelings about the supporting ensemble of cast of townspeople that were kind of new entrants to the series. No cringe level issues in the performances, but in general, I didn't buy into them to the same degree I did with the returning cast members. As far as stunts and visuals, things are kept pretty practical, as I think they really should be in this genre. Things do get plenty bloody, but they seem to be in service to the serious tone rather than going over the top gory. Michael continues to be a largely shadowed figure whose face is never revealed, and I think that's important because it sells his character concept as an embodiment of evil. What they were establishing more and more in the last movie and then continue establishing in this movie is like, this is not just a normal person. There's something off, something supernatural about him. They never go into the details like his mom did some satanic ritual or whatever, and I'm glad that they don't explain why, what is supernatural about him. It's just kind of like this feeling people get because of how he doesn't go down and how he is just singularly focused on killing and stuff. There's some fear of the unknown that is really part of the concept of Michael Myers, and that is supported by the way they visually present him in this movie. So I was pretty satisfied just with the overall visual presentation here, with maybe only a couple prosthetic heads or things that were replacing, human parts for a split second that maybe didn't work for me, but they were very brief. All right, as far as themes, is there anything more of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance going on in the themes of this thing that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation? And I think absolutely there's a jumping off point in this movie. The major theme is about how evil can cause us to fear, and that fear can lead us to do evil and really become this cyclical thing, even though we may see our actions as just or good in the moment, or may feel that our actions and our viewpoint is just and good. Mob justice is a major part of this movie. There's, and the idea of fear leading people to rebel against the law or to do harm and to direct their anger in the wrong places. I wondered as I watched this if it was maybe inspired by a reaction to the mob violence we saw a lot of in 2020 and early 2021. But this film was originally set to release in the fall of 2020, so it seems, very doubtful that that at least it was related to the riots surrounding like Black Lives Matter, and that kind of thing. And also it would have been before, unless they did some reshoots that I didn't know about, it would have been before the political riots in the Capitol. But anyway, let's see here. But in light of, even though it was delayed and probably wasn't thinking about those things much, if at all, in light of the violent mobs that we've seen come about for multiple reasons in the last 2 years, and in the wake of our failure to treat each other with respect amidst our different views on COVID and vaccines, the word of caution delivered by this movie seems extremely relevant right now. Some quotes that in particular really brought a focus to this theme was, when we are afraid, the boogeyman wins. They're building up this idea that Michael in some way counts on our fear, is even charged up by our fear. And so when we are afraid and react in fear, that's when we're playing into his plans, And I think that there's, that there's truth there in terms of like Satan and his allies in, in the spiritual world, that of course, they want us to be afraid and to react out of fear, Evil dies tonight is something that the mob started chanting. It was their battle cry. But that goes south, and that gets directed in the wrong place. And one character says in a different context, but still lining up, I think, with that same theme, just because your intentions are good doesn't mean things always work out. And I think that's so important, as we so often get caught up in following what feels in the moment like that which is just and good and righteous. That even as believers, we can end up behaving in ways, talking in ways, conversing in ways, communicating in ways that we think are bold and righteous and good, but actually there's something emotionally that we're following in those moments that is leading us in the wrong direction, or at least leading us to handle the way we communicate, the way we treat others in the wrong way. There's also a little bit of inconsistency. There's a tendency a couple times to blame Mike Myers for how people are reacting. They say, look at what he's doing to us. And I kind of wanted to pause and say those moments, well, yes, he's doing evil and he's responsible for that evil. he's not responsible for you reacting in fear in a bad way and doing the wrong thing because of that fear. That's because of brokenness in you and me, that's what's going on there. So we shouldn't, when we find ourselves, because of intense situations, reacting in ways that are sinful, we shouldn't be blaming our sinful reactions on the cause of our distress, and then, kind of, again, I say inconsistently because there was another character that, in the wake of kind of seeing this mob violence going in the wrong direction, saying none of us are innocent, and so I think it's really important that we look inward and consider what we are contributing to the mess that we are really troubled by. And then talking about Michael near the end of the movie, Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis's character, says you can't close your eyes and pretend he isn't there because he is. And I think that's also probably, maybe I think intentionally, but even if not, then accidentally, commentary on the nature of fear. Commentary on the nature of the sin and evil inside each of us that we need to be on guard against. You can't close your eyes and pretend it's not there because it is. And so we need to face that reality, each one of us. Anyway, I have no idea what your tastes are in movies, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Peter, okay, wait, you don't need to get Peacock and subscribe for a month or go to the theater to see this right when it releases. Wait and watch like on a streaming service that it's on that you're already getting for something else. It's not that like great must-see of an experience. Or rent it when it's like $2 at Redbox. Then definitely it'll be a good deal for a night of horror entertainment. It's not going to become one of your favorite horror movies, but it's going to work much better for you than the first one and leave you unexpectedly invested now in this franchise, which seems certain to continue based on how this one ended. It's rated R for strong, bloody violence throughout, grisly images, language, and some drug use. And those are all my thoughts for now on Halloween Kills. I would love to get your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, click that bell to stay connected, and anything else you want to do to help spread this content to those you think would be interested in it, I would be really grateful for. I want to thank the Spirit Blade Insiders for making this review possible. You can get more information about becoming an insider over at patreon.com/spiritbladeproductions. Then I hope you'll stay connected to all CGC content like our weekly podcast over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth. Once again this year, I'm raising funds for children in urgent need, this time fundraising for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, which provides free treatment for children facing life or death circumstances, and shares its cutting-edge life-saving research with hospitals all over the world. To raise funds, I'm leading members of the Christian Geek Central community in our Game Save 21 event, which you're still welcome to join by following the link in the description below. And once again this year, I'm drawing attention to our team's fundraising by performing a 24-hour marathon of video gaming that I will stream live on youtube.com/christiangeekcentral beginning 6 a.m. Pacific Time on Saturday, November 6th. You can donate or get more info by clicking on my fundraising page in the links below, where you'll also find incentives and rewards for doing so. For donating $5 or more, you can choose a topic for me to share my sometimes overly strong opinions on during my live stream. For $10 or more, you get the previous reward and a download code for a free copy of the Spirit Blade Special Edition audio drama. For $20 or more, you get the previous rewards and you can choose a game for me to play during my November 6th live stream. Pick a favorite or torture me with something terrible or rage-inducingly difficult. At $30, you get the previous rewards and you can choose a song for me to sing during my November 6th live stream. Pick an old favorite of yours or just make me humiliate and torture myself with something no one wants to hear. And at $50 or more, you get the previous rewards and a download code for every MP3 product at spiritblade.com. That's an $80 value. On top of that, I've set some fundraising milestones that will unlock strange and unusual happenings as I reach them. At $200, I'll have a free download day for everyone who visits spiritblade.com on November 13th. And as my total goes beyond $200, I'll unlock increasingly more content for that free download day. And depending how far beyond $200 my fundraising goes, during my November 6th live stream, I will show a photo of me you will never be able to unsee, put on a pair of Frozen socks and a Frozen t-shirt at the same time, shoot water up my nose with a turkey baster, and have my wife Holly play a video game with me for 30 minutes. And if I reach a personal fundraising total of $500 or more, I will do a 2-hour jump scare live stream before the end of the year featuring only the games that terrify me most, including Dead Space and PT. Now, I don't want to do that, but I know you sick people want to see that, so you're going to have to pay money to make it happen. And if I reach my $500 goal by the end of Thursday, October 21st, I will do a 4-hour live stream on Monday night, October 25th, doing my pathetically absolute best to get good at a game in the Souls genre. Now, there are some stipulations and time limits on those rewards and milestones, so quickly follow the link below to my fundraising page for all the details. I hope that you will be a part of helping me and the Christian Geek Central Game Save team do some good for some kids and families who really need it. And then please join me at youtube.com/ChristianGeekCentral for my 24-hour video gaming marathon starting at 6 a.m. Pacific time on Saturday, November 6th. Hope to see you then. Oh my gosh. This is all kinds of wrong.